Okay, so that was a long night. Originally, I was just going to log right into Google Cloud and go ahead and turn on the virtual machine that I'd had left on here for the past year and just pull right up the notebook and get going. The issue I ran into is that that instance had ran out of disk space and would no longer let me log into it. And so I spent like an hour and a half trying to debug it, make a snapshot, move it to another image, then end up making a drive from that snapshot to mount on another image and pull the notebook and make another drive for all of that so it doesn't happen again. Um, anyway, it was a long time getting everything going. And then I had all these JSON files that were stored in a Google Cloud storage bucket that I had to move over. All that's done now, so we can get right into it without you having to wait. See, this is my previous instance, BirderFL, that was out of space. And this is FLB1, which is pretty much the same instance with that drive mounted and a little bit more space so we can do things. So moving right along. Here is our Jupyter Lab and some of the notebooks that we have from before that we'll be getting into. First one, though, is S0 bird selection. So bird selection is where we look at all the audio files, all the data that we have, and figure out which birds we're going to include in this model. And here we have these files in populated JSON that are all of the metadata for all those audio files. So we're going to group them together and pretty much count how many files we have for each bird. So while that's running, I also wanted to look at this post here that I found of the 34 most common birds in the US. I want to make sure that these birds are in that list. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to count how many audio files we have per bird. And before, I'd just taken the 1,000 birds with the most audio files, figuring the most training data meant that the bird was more like common than any other bird. And that's how we figured out which birds to use. And then in the second iteration of the model, I limited that all down to just Florida birds, which is still another approach that we could take. And if we want to just go ahead and deploy that Florida bird model, we could do that. The only issue is that I'm limiting it down to just Florida birds. That would probably get us out the door quicker because then we wouldn't have to retrain this model today. But yeah, I want to see what we can do with this. So anyway, we have this list of birds here. Then we were copying the info from the previous bird file. We're not going to worry about that. Common names. Let's see. I should have looked through here a little bit more before I started recording. But maybe we can do this real quickly. Copying from previous bird file. Common names. We're looking at old bird. I don't know why I'm looking at the previous files. Really, I just want to know this. For the birds, work, because I haven't populated it yet. Okay. Bird assets. This is what we're looking for. And we want to find the birds with that. Okay, so we should pause here for just one moment. I wonder if I can just pause recording. Let's figure out if I can do that. Okay, let's keep going here. Kind of figured out where we were at. We're going to jump to this section right here. So we have get bird assets, and then we're saying bird assets are all of these bird assets here. So I'm just going to run this again. That we're going to jump through and grab them all. And what this is going to do is create that list of all of the birds, and then the number of assets that they have for each. Actually, what assets are in there. And the asset just being the audio file. So we should have a list of birds, and for each bird, a list of the audio files. Then we're going to go through and sort that right, because it comes out as sorted. It comes out as a sorted dictionary with the items. And we have this little graph here that shows that we have some that have straight up 250 assets each. I think I capped it at 250. Yeah, max length right here. And then a steep drop off. And before, what we did is went through and grabbed that list, and for each one, we made a bird info object with the bird and then all the audio files for that bird. So if we do that here, and then what I want to do is make sure that this list of birds is in that list there. So we're just going to try to clear up all this real quick. Let's see. Do you think this will work? Maybe. So that'll be our Python list of the 34 most common birds. Let's make it here. 34. We're going to go through for bird in most common 34. We're going to see which ones are not in bird info. And bird info, what does the first piece of that look like? Okay. So how about we make a list of the birds in bird info of the most common? So we've already ran this. Say bird info names equals b bird for b and bird info. Programming is one thing. Programming on camera while you're trying to figure out wall going is a totally different thing. Let's see. Not in BI list. I'm going to say if bird not in bird info names not in bird. And we're going to hope this comes out really empty. Not in BI list equals. Cool. So we only have two that are not in there, the mallard and the turkey vulture. All right, we're going to just not worry about them. Or just check out something real quick. If bird assets.keys, that should also be all of our birds as well. Let's just see if these two are in our list and maybe we can include them. Okay, so those are in this list. So how about we just go back through and include them real quick. So how are we going to do that? We're going to go through and we have bird info here. We're just going to append two new birds. Bird info.append. We said they were, here, let's make this a little bit more programmatic. We're going to come down here, 34 most common. Come back up to bird names. Get bird names, bird not in list. And we're going to say for B bird in not in. Go to really forgive my my horrible naming structure here. But like I said, it's hard to do this on the fly and come up with names. So we end up with names like not in BI list, which would be bird info list. However, doesn't matter. We have all of our birds in there, including the two that weren't in there before. So this list of all 34 most common from this website are in our 1,002 birds now. Cool. Solid update. What are we going to do? This is where I limited all to Florida birds. More Florida birds. I think we just want to save this as bird info and we'll call it bird info 1002. I think I already had a place to save it. JSON dump will work. Boom, boom, boom. Where we at? I think we work like this. Bird info, then open info. Writing. Let's go back and make sure it's here. Bird info 1002. All right, cool. Well, that'll be this video. We figured out the 1002 birds that we're going to be including in this new model. And yeah, we made sure they included these 34 from this whatbirdsareInMyBackyard.com. Cool. Thanks for watching. Let's see you on the next video.